Welcome back to Timo's Dinky Detailing. Today I'm going to be doing a French Dinky toy. It's a 559 Ford Taunus. Now this is an interesting toy. Um, it's a very plain car. It's just a two-door sedan, but it's a Ford Taunus and it has very interesting headlights. You can see here it has these oval headlights. And it makes for a very interesting toy because those headlights are painted separately from the grille. Now this one again is somebody's already removed the base before and glued it back on, and it's come apart again. So it's been repainted at least once, maybe more. I don't know. So yeah, those posts are they've been cut off. Or they've been ground off. The interior looks perfect. The windshield is intact without any big cracks, but it's very, very scratched up, so I'll have to clean that up. Now the base is in quite good condition. It has a little bit of rust here and there, but in general it's in very good condition. It's not very bent up. Now the wheels are the good French ones. These are quite good for polishing up. And I'm taking off the hubs by filing off using my special file that has the one edge ground smooth so it doesn't damage the wheels as I'm filing. And it's a Nicholson smooth file. It's a flat bastard file, but it's a very fine cutting file. And these are the wheels, and you can see the tires. They have lettering on them. They say Dunlop, and they're in good shape. So I'm going to reuse these. They have tread on them and everything, and I just need to polish up these hubs. These are steel hubs that were plated, but their plating is damaged a little bit, so I'll just buff those up probably, and that'll be good enough. Now there's some glue left over on this base. So I just clean a little bit of that off and a little bit of straightening. Mostly it doesn't need even much straightening. A little bit on the back and then a little bit on the front. So I really didn't put much effort into it. Around that hole in the back it was a little bit flared. So the best way to smooth it is to hit it with the hammer. So there, it's smooth. Looks pretty good. And I kind of don't want to paint that thing. We'll see what I decide, because it's in very, very good condition. It's blued, and stripping the bluing off doesn't necessarily make sense. So here I filed flat what's left of those posts. And I'm going with a center drill on the drill press. And here's the tap drill. I'm drilling it for a 440 button hex socket head cap screw, which is what I always use. And yeah, somewhere in there I was supposed to tap those holes, but I think I had it on pause, and then I had it and I was doing it, and then I put it on record when I wanted to pause, so you don't get to see me tapping those holes. So outside we go. You can see it's winter and a lot of snow, and here's my usual spot for stripping the paint. So this is the boiling water and caustic soda. Has that fine reaction where it all heats up when it hits the water, and it strips the paint off of most models. This one, it pretty much took it all off. It was a repaint, so it wasn't the original paint. I don't know whatever happened to the original paint, but there's really not much, there's no damage on this model, so it's pretty straightforward. I take the paint off, wire brush it, and first I put the primer on there. This is the Tamiya white fine surface primer, which is my favorite primer. And here's, I've got this, what's remaining of this jar of metallic gold Mr. Hobby Aqueous paint. And you can't get that paint anymore, so this is my last model that I'll be doing with this paint. I really like this paint. I've had a couple other models that I did with it, and they came out beautiful. And this is all that's left. So it goes into the airbrush and into the spray booth. My airbrush is clean again, so it's working beautifully. And I go on lightly with a few coats. I don't want it to build up and then have a run in it. And here I'm just getting it so that there's an even coat so that it will stay shiny. Yeah, I had mixed it with the self-leveling thinner, and that's what lets it be shiny. So here's this window. I've washed it, and now I'm going to be using the micro mesh. These are the very fine grits for polishing plastic. These were designed and are probably still used for polishing scratched aircraft windows. So you can see I'm going through each different grit. Each number gets higher as the grit gets smaller. And I have to do, I'm obviously speeding this up because I have to go on all sides of that window, and I have to take off all of the old scratches from the previous grit. So in each case, until I get down to the 12,000. And what I do, as I go, it takes a while, so I've obviously shortened this thing up through editing, and it's a lot of work. And in the end, it's you can get it. I can get it to be perfect. I have to really be careful to make sure I take off each layer. So there, it's all polished up right down to 12,000, but it has some chips in it. They're not really visible there. So I think I would have to go and do the interior as well if I wanted really to get this thing clean, but I don't know how the interior could get damaged. Anyway, I'm doing belt and suspenders, so after polishing it all and making it look shiny like that, I'm also going to spray on this acrylic floor polish. This is what everybody uses to clean up their windows. They can dip it. I put it instead with the airbrush. So here's the base. I've come back to it. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm just going to put a little bit of oil on it and clean off the surface rust, and it'll have a little thin coat of oil, and this is 3-in-1 oil, and that's good enough because I think the base looks really nice, and I'd rather keep that original if I can. In this case, I think it's worth it. And on the inside, I've got to put it there too because there's some spots that have started rusting already. And there I wipe off the excess oil, and that's going to be good enough for me. The interior is in perfect condition, and it's just a little bit dirty. So there, I've cleaned it off camera, obviously. And now the headlights. I don't know how they did it at Dinky. I know they had these shields that they would put over, and they would mount the toy, and they would put this shield that was made of sheet steel, or I heard something that some of them were made with cardboard. I don't know. It would be very difficult to make such a thing for this, and for taping it, it's very, very difficult. So I'm not going to show you every single bit because this took a very long time to get the taping done. And it's a very frustrating process because I'm working with tiny, tiny little pieces of tape and try to get them in, and of course then it wants to stick to the tweezers, and it's a very challenging job. And I had to choose an order of operations. I started out putting these tiny little ones right by the headlights, but then I had to start over because I needed the other outer part that masks around the outside of the headlight. And you can see all I've taped here is the headlights. I've covered up the grille and the bumper because there's no way I'm going to try and tape both of those at the same time. That's to me is impossible. So I have to do this in two phases. So there I've shielded the rest of the body, and I'm using my Rust-Oleum metallic paint, which is fantastic. It looks very much like the original paint that you get on a Dinky toy. It's a very durable paint, so it doesn't get fingerprints or anything. It's perfect. So now I take off the tape. Last few models I've had to do multiple tapings on them. I find I'd rather do the taping and get a really beautiful result than to try and go in with a brush. My hands aren't that steady, and I'm not going to be able to, I wouldn't be able to paint these headlights. And there they look beautiful like they would coming out of the factory, and you can see those models come out of the factory, the ones that you can see online, and those headlights just look fantastic. So I wanted to accomplish that same thing. So here is a second taping in order to do the grille and the back on the front, and this one has a very interesting back that's like it's like it has a grille in the back as well as in the front. And that the coolest part of this model is the front and the back because of the very interesting shape, and I just love it. Look at the back. This is kind of a sports cars thing to have this back that's got like a grill on the back, and it's not a rear engine, maybe it is, but it has a grill like you might expect for a rear engine car. So these are the original wheels that came with the model, and they're very nice ones. They're machined from steel, and then they're plated. The plating gets corroded. This one, they weren't really rusty, but they have like corrosion. So on the buffing wheel, I was able to get that clean and made them look beautiful. So I got to get the tires. The tires only have that lettering on one side, so you got to make sure you mount it the correct way, otherwise you won't see the lettering on the final model. So here I'm cutting axles. This one was a short piece from last. You can see that tiny little piece was the amount of waste I got from the full length of one of these pieces of stainless tubing. And here I've got to get this axle underneath these springs, and these are hardened steel springs, and it's tricky to get. On the other side I needed to use a screwdriver, and on this side only the fingernail worked. So the nice thing is those springs hold these in place, so for putting on the wheels, the axles don't get pushed around, so that's handy. You can see on the front there's an odd shape opening. That's for the steering. You press down on one side and it steers in that direction. The wheels actually go into those slots and steer. I'll show you that at the end. So here's my process. I put that stainless steel tubing because it has a hole all the way through, and I use these little nails. They're some kind of upholstery nails. They're tiny little nails, but they have a perfect mushroom on the end. That's their head, and all I have to do is polish off. There's a bronze finish. These things are listed in below, so you can look them up, and it's for the Canadian market, but wherever you are, I'm sure it'll help you find the same screws. Screws, not screws, nails. Of course, I call them mushrooms. So that was a pretty simple process. We're ready to reassemble now. And I'm taking off these screws are painted gold, and I was thinking, well, that's one of the last things I painted gold with that wonderful metallic gold paint, so I'm going to use these screws on this to put this bottle back together rather than getting fresh new screws. So get the windshield in, the seats, and then the base and 2 screws. It's a very simple model, no moving parts other than the wheels. Sometimes it's tricky grabbing those screws, especially if the screw is painted like this, because it's sometimes hard to get the little hex portion into the hex socket. So here's how you can see it steers. As a child, this was very, very important to me. When I got one that didn't steer, I thought there's something wrong with it. So here's what it looked like when we started. The casting is in perfect condition, which is great, so it makes it for a very easy restoration. And that's what it looks like now. I just love the look of that front end with the inset headlights painted silver. Just looks fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Timo's Dinky Detailing. Remember to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the show, so guarantee that there'll be more shows coming. So until next time, be seeing you.